I, Vampire, number 13, written by Joshua Hale Fialkov, art by Andrea Sorrentino. Last issue was a zero issue, but then before that, we left off with Andrew absorbing all the vampirism from all the vampires in, I believe, the world, and becoming the only sole vampire left, and then turning Tig, the anti-vampire human he was with, into a vampire. So, that was 2 months ago, and apparently in the meantime, Stormwatch was like, oh, hey, you're kind of evil now, Andrew. We got to take you down. So they try to fight him, and, they didn't stand a chance. They were beaten down hard by Andrew. So just like, okay, well, we'll regroup, and Stormwatch will deal with it. Okay, bye. And they all left. And we see this is all told from the perspective of Mary. Mary Seward, who was Mary Queen of Blood, who's now human entirely, and she's just been moping around for 2 months because Andrew took away not only her vampirism, but also himself. He's gone as well. And she's hanging out with John Troughton, Andrew's friend, and basically saying, like, okay, so I've been reaching out to the superhero communities. Stormwatch, again, being unhelpful. I talked to Constantine, see what he knows. He doesn't know about Andrew being evil yet, so maybe we keep that from him. And Mary's like, Constantine literally couldn't do anything if he tried. Like, he's way too powerful. So at that point, Mary's like, all right, I just got to take a step out. And Andrew's like, well, we're going to save him. Okay, all right, bye. So Mary steps out in the snow, and she's walking around, and she's like a couple making out on the street, and she's just like, oh, God, humans suck. And she goes over this whole thing of, like, how vampires, like, they can taste other people's hormones in the air. Like, they are that sensitive to, like, everything around them. That's why they're constantly attacking, like, teenagers who are making out, because they can taste it. They literally can feel it in the air. And so she just walks around town, and she's like, man, it was like 6 months ago. I had an entire army in this city, and, like, I was ready to bring vampirism, like, make that the primary thing in humanity. And it's just, now I'm just a normal human. And as she's walking around feeling bad that she lost everything, she's attacked by someone who, like, throws her up against the wall, and she's like, oh, you do not want to mess with me. But then he ends up, like, punching her in the face, and she, like, nearly blacks out. And guy's like, give me your purse, give me your wallet, whatever you got. And Mary just goes up, bites his lip, and rips it off. And then proceeds to grab his head and shove it into some wooden splinters that were there, and just absolutely kill him. And she's like, that felt good. I needed that. That reminds me of who I truly am. I'm not Mary sulking around in the ditch and just waiting for my life to end. Nah, I'm Mary, Queen of Blood, quote, the baddest bitch who ever lived. I love that. So she grabs the guy's crucifix necklace that he was wearing, and is just like, yep, we're gonna go get Andrew. So comes back in, talks to John, and says, all right, get your keys. We're going to go. Let's figure out what we're going to do. And he's like, are you sure? The last road trip we took didn't end well. And she's like, do you think Andrew would just sit around moping? And he's like, yeah, actually, he did that a lot. And she's like, well, I'm not Andrew. I'm bigger. We're gonna go back. We're going to start at the beginning. We're going to figure out the demon's lock. And they apparently don't know that Andrew was made directly by Cain into a vampire, because they're saying, like, well, we need to find out who turned Andrew, who's his whatever it's called. And they're just like, okay, well, that's all the vampires are gone, so his sire, that's the word I'm looking for. All the vampires are gone, so that's not going to be that easy to do. And it's like, okay, well, there's one person who might have a better idea. And apparently we go to the deep backwoods of Maine, and there's this woman there with her dog named Mishkin, and she's just chopping wood, and she lives all out on her own. She carries it inside her house, and she's like, oh, Mishkin, just you and me, the best way of living. And then all of a sudden, there's a knock on there's Mishkin feels somebody at the door. All of a sudden, there's a knock. She looks to see if there's anybody there via a little mirror, and she's like, well, I don't see anybody, or at least nobody who has a reflection. And then all of a sudden, there's a little girl's voice at the door saying, "Hello, is anybody there? I'm not sure if I'm in the right place." And this woman's like, "Oh, I don't accept visitors. Sorry." She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just need some help. I think I'm lost." And so she's about to open up the door, but she's got an axe in hand. And then Andrew appears inside, and he looks like totally normal Andrew, not monstrous at all. And he's like, "Really? An axe?" And immediately the woman like warms up to him. She's like, "Oh, Andrew, hey, how's it going?" And it turns out this woman's name is, I think it's Deborah Dancer. And she's a human who used to be a companion of Andrew's. And she's just like, "Hey, I need you to invite, or you should bring my friend in. She's definitely someone who's big." And like, she's like, "Oh yeah, totally." It's like, "Yeah, just invite my friend in." She's like, "Did you say invite your friend in?" And at that point, Andrew's like, "Oops." And Andrew turns completely monstrous, uses his energy to like blast Deborah back. Deborah gets her hand on the axe, plants it into Andrew, and Andrew's like, "Oh man, I don't want to kill you, but like, oh man, I loved having you around to manipulate. It was so much fun." And we see that the inviting thing was actually just, a ploy. They don't need to be invited in anymore. Tig is the voice on the other side of the door, blasts through the door, grabs a hold of Deborah, and Andrew's like, no. We're not going to eat her. We're going to turn her because she meant something to me at one point, and I would love to corrupt something as pure and as kind as her. So we get a whole backstory here of how Mary apparently turned her into a half vampire, and some reason that like it doesn't make her want blood, but it does keep her like pretty youthful in some ways. I don't know. But Andrew's like, "Oh, I'm here to fix it." So now we're playing by a new set of rules. And before he can do anything, Mary and John show up and saying like, "Oh, hey, we're here. Let's get this party started." And Debbie's like, "Mary, what the hell's going on?" He's like, "Oh, I'm the good guy now. And we're here to make sure you don't get your head cut off, Blondie." So I love it. Here's the thing. I only just found out recently, and this is my own fault of not researching it more, that apparently this whole story took place, I believe, in like House of Secrets or House of Mystery, which was its own comic pre-New 52. And this is actually continuing on from that. Mary and them had a whole thing beforehand. So this isn't really so much of a reboot of a comic as it is a continuation, and I don't care. This did a fantastic job of like just saying like, okay, here's Debbie, here's what she is, what she does, why she's important. And it opens up the whole new story of Andrew being the evil one. And trust me, it really plays it strong. Like we see this monstrous form, and then just that moment where he gives too much away and he transforms into like this monstrous form. Beautiful. Having Mary become the good guy, quote unquote, love that too. This is a 9. This is easily a 9. This is fantastic. My only saddening thing is looking ahead. The next issue is the last issue with Andrea Sorrentino on art, at least that I could see. Oh God, I'm going to miss this art style so badly, no matter what it turns into. This is just how I accept this book now. But this one in particular, it's a 9. It's an easy, just fantastic. It's changing up into a new arc. This is the third time we've done that. The first arc was battling against Mary's army. The second arc was battling against the Van Helsings. And this is now just a battle against Andrew himself. And I've loved how it transitioned each and every time. I really have no problems with it whatsoever. So, God, I love this book.